My name is Marcus Bledsoe. I'm 51 years old and have spent most of my life repairing other people's homes. I'm what you might call a restoration specialist. The guy you call when your property has sat too long, rotted too far, or just feels wrong. I don't advertise. I don't need to. Word gets around, especially in places where the air still smells like coal and the towns forget to breathe. 4 years ago, I took a job I should have walked away from. The house was in Shadwell, a near-dead town in the hills of Pennsylvania, squeezed between overgrown highways and hollowed-out factories. It wasn't on any GPS, and the only reason I even found it was because the man who hired me left printed directions in my mailbox. No name, just coordinates, a date, and one line. She won't rest until it's whole again. I've seen strange things in my life. Places where the floorboards weep and the windows bleed. Houses with walls that hum and crawl at night. But nothing, not even the mine collapse house in Jericho County, ever did to me what Shadwell did. The place was a 2-story Victorian, swallowed by vines and fog. Not the romantic kind, not like in movies. This fog was heavy, clinging, as if the air itself didn't want to let you go once you stepped in. The porch creaked like it hadn't borne weight in decades, and when I knocked, the door opened on its own. No one was there. No one ever was. The job was simple on paper. Reinforce the load-bearing beams, replace the warped windows, scrape and patch the old wallpaper. I was to live there until the work was done. Cash up front, more on completion. I should have asked questions, should have asked who she was. The first night passed in silence. Not quiet, silence. It was the kind of hush that presses against your eardrums, the kind that swallows footsteps and kills echoes. I didn't notice it at first, not until I dropped a tool in the hallway and realized the sound didn't bounce. It just died. I clapped my hands. No echo. I muttered to myself, nothing. At dinner, I set my fork down too fast and listened, or tried to, for the metal tap against the plate. Again, nothing. It was like the house was eating the noise. I slept in one of the upper bedrooms, a stuffy, dust-choked chamber with a narrow bed and an old vanity mirror cracked at the center. I kept the door open. I'm not a coward, but I don't like the feeling of being sealed in, especially not there. Around 3 in the morning, I woke up without knowing why. Not to a sound, there weren't any, but to a pressure, a sense that someone was in the room with me, watching. I sat up slowly. There was nothing, but when I stood and looked into the cracked mirror, I saw movement behind me. It was brief, just a flicker. A woman, maybe, tall and thin, with hair like wet rope. She stood in the doorway, unmoving. When I turned to face her, the doorway was empty. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. By day, the house was just a house. Moldy, tired, angry, in the way old buildings get when they've been forgotten. I tore down wallpaper and found words written underneath in chalky scrawl. She walks on dust, don't speak. By the 4th day, I stopped trying to make noise. There was no point. Even the hammer against the joists didn't ring. I began to feel like I was dreaming, like I was floating through a memory that didn't belong to me. Then came the footsteps. They didn't echo either, but I heard them, faint and measured, on the ceiling above me when I was downstairs. No one was there. No attic, just roof. I tried to ignore it. The next night, I awoke to find the mirror covered in breath, a perfect fog on the glass, as if someone had stood inches away, breathing slow and heavy. I wiped it with a towel. The fog returned, and this time, written in it, were words, "Don't let her touch you." I packed my tools. I left. I didn't care about the money. I drove through the fog, past broken mile markers and rusted signs, and didn't stop until I hit a gas station 2 towns over. The clerk gave me a strange look. "You look like you've seen a grave," he said. I didn't answer. I didn't tell anyone what I'd seen, what I'd felt. I didn't go back, but I never stopped dreaming. Always the same. A house with no sound. A woman who walks on dust. A hand reaching from behind the mirror. Then, a year later, I got a letter. Same handwriting. No return address. Inside was a photograph of the house. Only now it looked brand new. Painted, fixed, rebuilt. Even the vines were gone. On the back, again, only one line. "She's still waiting." I burned the letter, but I kept the photo. Why? I don't know. Maybe some part of me needed proof that it wasn't just in my head. Weeks passed, then months, and then the dreams changed. She wasn't just behind the mirror anymore. She was standing at the foot of my bed. She didn't move, didn't speak, but she watched, and I could feel the air around her. Not cold, but silent, suffocating. Then came the voices, faint at first, then louder, always just out of reach, like a whisper behind a closed door. They never spoke clearly, just murmured, repeated, until one night I understood one word: home. I didn't sleep after that. I started seeing her in the corner of my eye, in reflections, in puddles, in windows, never directly, always when I wasn't looking, always where I had just been. Eventually, I stopped going outside. My house began to rot. My phone stopped working. Friends stopped calling. But she stayed, always there, always watching. Then one morning, I woke to find my front door open, and outside, parked on the cracked asphalt, was the truck I had used in Shadwell, the one I left behind, keys still in the ignition, the gas tank full, and taped to the windshield, a note: "Come finish it." I didn't remember driving, I didn't remember leaving, but I was already behind the wheel. The engine started on the first turn, and the road to Shad. I don't remember most of the drive, not the road, not the hours, just the fog and the way it clung to the windshield like a second skin. My hands didn't feel like mine. They gripped the wheel, but I never recalled placing them there. My knuckles were white the whole time, though I felt no fear, just the numbness of inevitability. Shadwell hadn't changed, still hidden, still gray, still hollowed out like a wasp nest after the insects have gone. The town was dead, but not quiet. There's a difference. Quiet can be peaceful. This was silence, heavy, loaded, watching. The house stood exactly as in the photo. Fresh paint, clean windows, new shutters. It looked lived in, but there were no cars, no mail, no sounds, not even birds, just the wind, blowing without a voice. The front door was open. Of course it was. I stepped inside, and the air hit me like a curtain. Not cold, not hot, but weighted, like stepping into a space that had been sealed, waiting, dustless, pristine, empty. The silence returned instantly. No footsteps, no echo, not even the sound of my breath. The furniture was new, but aged, as if placed here decades ago, though it hadn't been. A paradox of time. Every clock read 3:33. I walked through the house like I'd never left it. The walls remembered me. The second floor bedroom had been redone. A larger bed, untouched sheets, a wardrobe with nothing inside, but the mirror remained, uncracked now, tall, framed in dark wood, and still faintly fogged. She wasn't in it. Not yet. I left my bag by the door. I didn't unpack. I didn't need to. There was nothing I'd brought that would matter. That night, I sat in the hallway at the top of the stairs and waited. I don't know for what, but I didn't wait long. At exactly 3:33, I felt her arrive. It wasn't a sound, not even a presence really, just a shift in the world, like the breath of the house, caught for a moment and didn't come back. I looked to the bedroom. She was standing in the doorway, same as before, tall, thin, skin that wasn't gray or pale, but absent, like she was made of fog, held together by gravity. Her hair moved without wind. Her arms hung at her sides, but her hands, long, wrong, curled toward me. She took one step, then another. She made no noise, but the silence grew thicker with each movement, pressing into my ears, my ribs, the base of my skull. I could feel it behind my eyes, like pressure before a storm. I stood. I didn't run. I knew better. You don't run from something that doesn't chase. You follow, down the stairs, into the kitchen, through the pantry, behind the wall where no door should have been, but it opened for her, and I followed. The passage led downward, not stairs, not really, more like the floor leaned, and I leaned with it. The walls were wooden, but untouched by time or moisture. Carvings ran along them, faces, hands, doors, always doors. The deeper we went, the less real things became. The silence was total now. I couldn't hear my own heartbeat. I couldn't even hear the crunch of my teeth as I clenched my jaw. Just nothing, and in that nothing, I saw others, shapes, outlines, people, maybe. They stood in the walls, not behind, in, pressed like fossils in bark, their mouths open in perfect O's, soundless. Their eyes followed me, not her. just me. Eventually, the hall ended at a door, the same as in my dreams. Tall, plain, round handle, but this time there was a small plaque. Bledsoe, my name, carved deep. The woman turned to me. Her face was still unreadable, still void, but I could feel something, expectation. She stepped aside, let me reach for the handle. I didn't want to, but I did. The moment my fingers touched the metal, the silence screamed, not in noise, but in sensation. A scream that was inside me, in my bones, in my teeth, in the roots of my nails. The door opened slowly. Inside was not a room. It was me, younger, barely 30, standing in an apartment I hadn't seen in decades. It was the night my daughter died, the night I came home too late, the night the heater failed, and she never woke up. I saw it all again, the ambulance, the screams, the emptiness after, the way I pulled the mirror down from the wall and never looked in one again. The door closed. I opened the next, a version of me that stayed with my wife, who had another child, who built a life, who never ran from grief. Another door, me, older, alone, dying in a hospital bed, hand in hand with a nurse who had known me for years. I wept in her arms, not from pain, but relief. Another door, me, laughing, younger, on a boat. Another, me, crushed under rubble. Another, me, never born. Another, me, staring at a mirror, blood pouring from my eyes. Every version of me that ever could be, every branch, every breath. She watched, never moving, never judging. And then, the final door, black, no name, no handle. I turned to her. She nodded. I opened it. Inside was the house, this house, but not as it was, as it would be. Rotting, empty, full of figures, walking the halls with no sound, each one wearing my face, each one pausing at mirrors and not recognizing themselves. I stepped back, closed the door, but it didn't matter. I was already in the house. I always had been. There was no job. There was no letter. There was just a memory, trying to find its home. She stepped into the door and disappeared. Not vanished, just folded, as if she had always been inside. And now, so was I. I don't remember climbing the stairs or lying down, but I woke in the upstairs bed, sheets pulled, mirror fogged. Outside, the truck was gone. The road was gone. The town was gone. Only the house remained, and the silence. No footsteps, no breath, no name, just me, waiting.